So our next presenter is Bradley Daye. He is the co-founder and co-CEO of Placemaking 4G and a founding member of ACE nonprofit. Knocking down silos and uniting communities through a practice of belonging is his purpose in life, which closely aligns with this business he manages. P4G is a social enterprise focused on equitable recruiting and education. Bradley is a member of the African Nova Scotian community with a deeply rooted history in Nova Scotia as the grandson of Delmore Buddy Daye. Belonging and well-being are a motivating force in Bradley's life, as he highlighted in his recent TEDx talk titled Making Belonging a Practice, and his appointment as the newest member of the board of directors for Black Wellness Collective. Please welcome Bradley Daye.
Thanks, Angela, and thanks, Marge, as I'm walking up here. I don't have my notes, so she's like, make sure you do a visual description of yourself as you go up. But what is better than notes is this little fidget toy that I do have with me. Bradley Daye, he, him pronouns, and yeah, I'm a mixed race male of African descent and of average build with long hair, and I wear a lot of green, so I'm wearing a lot of green today, and yeah, so I'm here today to talk about equitability. So has anybody in the room heard of this program, Equitability, by show of hands for me? Could you raise your hands? Okay, so there's some folks that have heard of it. A lot of people haven't heard of it. Who has actually gone through Equitability? Who's gone through it? Okay, so I see about 10. All of those are volunteers now to tell you a lot more about Equitability. If you have questions, you can go to any of them. But seriously, it's been really a learning opportunity for myself to be a part of that program and to work with teamwork on creating environments within workplaces that do feel more like a sense of belonging for everyone, specifically people living and experiencing disability. And it was on this stage last year where a lot of my own self-discovery when it came to disability came from. And Keith, who's in the room, I think you're going to hear from him as well, was a big part of that in helping me understand the resources that are available. There is a organization based out of New Brunswick called Beyond ADHD that I got a diagnosis in a week and $200. And so if you didn't know, now you know about that program, which is awesome. And it's been a journey personally since then, you know, this last year, figuring out what works for me. And Keith and I were just talking about this, figuring out what works for me and then being like, nope, that doesn't work anymore. What's next? And that process is kind of a daily process of what works for me today. And obviously something didn't work because I forgot my notes to be here today, but maybe that's what I actually needed. I want to kind of tell a brief story about this. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and I'm just hearing like a theme since I've gotten into the room around conformity and breaking away from things that are, you know, making us conform to certain standards, expectations. I heard that in the song that Daye was doing, and heard that just from our previous speaker, and this notion of belonging. And recently, and I don't think I finished the book, again, ADHD, but there's a book called On Belonging by Kim Samuel. So I really encourage anybody to check that book out. And she talked about this notion of false belonging. She talked about anything that requires you to have membership, as if you belong to a certain group. It's sort of false belonging. And that really, really landed with me, especially being somebody who's mixed race, which Daye talked about, and feeling like you kind of fit in everywhere and nowhere. And so when you find yourself at your organization or in your life, kind of creating a bit of a membership of who's allowed to kind of be in interaction with you, or who's allowed to hang out with you or build a relationship with you, that there are membership requirements, and that could be behavioral ability, race, background, it could be anything. That's false belonging. And I know that myself, I've been very guilty of that in the past, and probably now in the present. I'm just practicing, like all of us. So I say that to also continue a bit of the singing we've heard, because I do remember some of my notes, and I do remember that I did plan to do this. I made a promise last year not just to figure out my own journey with ADHD, but to be more authentic. I said 2024 is my year for authenticity. And in that, I've always liked to sing, but I've been terrified to do that in front of people. One of the things that has given me a lot of courage, Concerta, an ADHD drug. um, so so actually fulfilled that promise a few times this year. I've did sing on a few stages. So today I want to involve you all and invite you all to sing with me this time, maybe in like a call and response kind of way. But I'll tell one brief last story. How much time? There's no timer. I'll tell one brief story before we do the call and response singing thing. Um, and it has to do with conformity and authentic expression, and it has to do with the song choice. So when I was in grade 6, Mr. Simons, it was our homeroom teacher, and he had us do a project to sing about, or not to sing about, but to present our favorite song to to the class. And I remember that day very vividly because I showed up with the 1975 vinyl record of Wake Up Everybody by Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. And a lot of my classmates around me were, they had like the Tupac album or a Biggie album or Mariah Carey or like whatever was current in the 90s. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, they went a very different route with this than I did. And now I really don't feel like presenting about this vinyl record I have in front of me. This is terrifying. But it was my favorite song. And if I was to conform and do what everybody else is doing, I think that's been a big part of self-discovery when it comes to ADHD, is kind of rewriting my own story throughout the years of like how did I experience school, and how did I'm kind of going back and seeing that I'm so grateful to have seen things differently and to want to carve a new path and to use that as a way to be like, this is not cool, can we switch it? So I'm going to invite you all to sing a brief part of that song with me. And to make sure that I remembered the lyrics, I took a screenshot of them, and it's not very long, I promise you. Um, so bear with me as I pull up the lyrics, because that was the one thing I'm like, I know I'm gonna forget that. Um, so I'll do a bit and then I'll stop. And then if you want to, and if you feel called to, if you could sing that part back as well. So it goes like this. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. We gotta change it, yeah, just you and me. And thank you. Thank you for indulging in that. Um, Uh, and ever since I can remember, those lyrics have stuck with me because I always thought, like, who am I to think I can do any kind of change? But if I can get one person to be like, me and you, we're going to change the world together. If I can convince one person to change or to want to embrace this journey a bit more, then I feel like I've done my duty. So, with that in mind, if you'd like to hang out at the EquitAbility program, and change the world together and talk about how we want to do that within our organizations. I'm here to chat more about that. I'll be in the room all afternoon. And you can find all of those people that raised their hand earlier because they're also very willing to tell you all about it as well. But I just want to say thank you to Teamwork for setting up this amazing event and for allowing me to have some time to speak with you today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bradley. I'm not going to sing. Uh, Everybody did a great job at that, but that's not my skill set. But thank you for being so brave and transparent with us.